Hey y'all, it's Laura. Welcome back to another Coco Vanilla Studio video. This time we are diving into an older collection called Love Always. And I can always tell the older collections from the newer ones on sight simply because of the color schemes. I've noticed that Zoe has trended toward a more open color palette as she's gone along in her business, and the older ones have a more limited color palette, like this one, which has shades of teal and multiple shades of pink, and then we get gray to black in the kind of neutral territory. So we have several shades of gray, dark gray, kind of that charcoal rather than black. It's not quite a solid black. It's more like a dark, dark gray. And that's pretty much it for the color palette on this collection. Now, I did bring in this darker shade of rose here at the very back with the little florals on it, the kind of tone on tone color. And I believe that one came from Unforgettable because I needed a little bit more depth in this particular layout. I wanted that brighter pink. And that is because my photos have a little pop of that color in my daughter's gloves, and I thought it would help the photos tie in a little better to the collection. So I did bring in one piece that wasn't part of Love Always, but it works really well and it's the right tone because it's the same creator, same manufacturer. And so we have a little kind of bounce between collections here, just in that aspect. But the rest of it is from Love Always, which is a little bit of stash busting on my part. I absolutely am trying to use up some of my older collections this year. That is one of my goals, my scrappy goals for the year, is to use up some older collections. And this one in particular really popped out to me. I love this collection. I think I may do some of my old wedding photos with this collection because the color scheme is perfect. My wedding colors were pink and silver, and so that works out really, really well with this collection. But for some snow photos, I thought would be stepping outside of the theme of this collection, which is very love themed. Calling it all Love Always and not having it love themed would be a little weird. So it does fit within the name perfectly, and I think it'll work really well for wedding photos. But I want to challenge myself with collections fairly regularly to step outside of the theme and see what I can make happen. What sort of magic can I make happen with especially Coco Vanilla products, because a lot of these collections are just super versatile. They're really usable on a lot of different types of photos and types of layouts. There's a lot of simple generic shapes like florals and stars and hearts and circles that are usable for just about any photos. And then you have, of course, lots of different little banners and arrows and things that, again, you can just use on everything. I just find these collections so versatile. That's why they become my favorites, because I can do snow layout and then a wedding layout and potentially a baby layout, all with the same collection, and not feel like I'm having to rely fully on my punches or having to go into my stash for a bunch of other bits and pieces just to make it work. I can literally just use the original collection. Now, when I was creating this particular layout, I decided to dip into the chipboard, and there are some beautiful frames in this collection, and I'm a huge, huge fan of frames, and so I absolutely reached for those first, and decided to create this kind of a collaged background using frames. And once I got those frames out of the packaging, I backed them with some of the patterned papers to bring in those pops of color that I love about this collection. I even backed my smallest frame with a cut apart piece to create a title block, and then went from there. So stair stepping my frames right to left all the way down really helps to give this layout some movement. So it kind of guides your eye from the top to the bottom. Another way that I'm doing that is with my photos. So my photos lead your eye from the top to the bottom. Human beings, we do tend to start at the top of the page when we are approaching a book, approaching an image. We tend to start at the top of the page. And so I like to use that to my advantage in my designing and carry the design down vertically or from left to right. And that, I find, is just a very satisfying way to scrap and to design my pages. Now, this particular layout, I am scrapping snowball making. And in this case, my daughter had found some lingering snow kind of chilling on the trampoline at our old house. and was scooping it up, gonna make some snowballs because the rest of the snow had melted. And so this was just a fun little moment of her discovery and excitement at finding some snow when she thought it was gone. And it's just a little everyday moment that I wanted to include in her album. Now for this layout, I am kind of piecing in little bits and embellishments in interesting places, filling in gaps. So as you'll notice on this top right side of the layout, we have a very small stair step around that photo. So the piece to the left of the top photo, the piece at the bottom of the top photo are pretty close to where the photo is in both vertical and horizontal design. There's not a big stair step there like there is on the other side. And so I'm going to focus most of my embellishing on that right side and kind of adding a bit of whimsy and fun through some rounded elements like some florals and these little banners, which are rounded edges at the bottom, and also create that stair step design at the bottom underneath of the title block with these banners. So you can kind of play around with the mirroring concept of stair steps on the left side with your embellishments on the right side. And that's really what I was aiming for with this layout. Now, I do go a little crazy with the embellishments. As you can see in my embellishment tray here to the left, I have the die cut pack and then I have the cut aparts down at the bottom, because even in this early collection, Zoe was giving us so many fun little embellishment pieces in the cut apart, which I love. I love when companies do that. It's just so helpful when they include those little bits and pieces that you can just cut out and use. And while not everybody is interested in fussy cutting out their embellishments, I certainly am. I cut out embellishments all of the time, and fussy cutting is kind of a separate hobby for me because I enjoy it and find it very relaxing just when I'm watching YouTube or playing around with an audiobook, catching up on my reading list. Then I absolutely have a blast with the fussy cutting. I think she does a pretty good job of balancing out 3x4 cards and also embellishments and borders and all of that bits and pieces, and sometimes even word phrases, which is a nice little bonus as well. But overall, I would love to see more of that in the scrappy world. Now, finishing this one up with some lovely little tiny embellishments, what I call my scattering. And I'm using some little tiny butterflies at 3 levels on this layout to kind of keep it cohesive. I'll be adding one at the top right. I have one on my little title block in the center, and then one down at the bottom as well, which creates a little bit of cohesion of the theme there, and also adds just the tiniest little additional details to the layout that I think really make a big difference on the overall design. I think you need to have a range of embellishment sizes from the larger frames to the medium-sized florals to the teeny tiny little butterflies. I think it helps to add a little more depth and more interest onto my scrapbook pages, and so you'll almost always see me use that range in all of my pages. Now, I am fussing around with a lovely little floral here at the bottom, and finally decided to go with something very simple instead of the larger floral that I had used. And when I was playing with that, I sat back, looked at the overall layout, and realized, nope, I really think I need to make this one a centered layout, because initially I was thinking of adding either a large title to the right side or a big panel of journaling to the right side. But as I went along with this layout, I decided that that was going to be a little bit too much on this page. There was so much going on already. It really didn't need a big panel of either journaling or a title on the right side. Not to mention, I didn't have a ton to say about these particular photos. This was just kind of a random everyday moment that I wanted to capture, thought was really fun, and kind of showcases my daughter's exploratory nature, if you will. And so I was really excited to include all of these beautiful photos onto one page. Most of my layouts are multi-photo, and this is one of those ones that I think really captures the moment rather than, say, a whole day. This is just a moment of discovery and exploration, and that's what I wanted to capture. So finishing this one off with some 6x12 stickers, and that I am adding some extra glue onto these 6x12 stickers, not because they're not sticky, because they are, but I want to make sure that they stay forever. And looking through some old layouts, I keep coming across bits and pieces from some of those really early kind of craft store collections that just didn't stay stuck. And so that kind of runs through my mind while I'm scrapping. Like, oh, I better add some extra glue just in case for security's sake. So I don't have to do it later. That's the idea there. But adding that little extra glue doesn't take any extra time from me, not really. And it kind of makes me feel better knowing that one will definitely be stuck down. Finishing this off with the splattering aspect of my scattering and splattering, I am going to come in with some Nuvo drops to create some little butterfly trails and to dot around the page with a controlled splatter, and then coming in with some gold ink spray for some uncontrolled splatter around my clusters. Now this is a finishing touch that I use quite often and that I find adds just a little extra flair to the outside edges of my layout. That's it for this one, guys. Be sure to check out the blog at cocovanilla.com.au, and until next time, bye y'all.